And we are live. How good is that intro? Man, I didn't create that intro, of course, because that's not me. That's all Brick.
You're welcome. Fun stuff, man.
Man,
Channeling all that 80s cartoon energy from my childhood and just being like, boom, I want to make a show.
man, that's so much better than just my weird cold intros that don't really make any sense. And I didn't even change my banner because I was just watching that intro again. First off,
thank you.
We are expecting Jason to join us. He's just a little bit delayed in sort of. If you didn't know, he's at Joe Fest, and he's Joe Fest is just sort of wrapped up for the day. He's just sort of getting to where he's going. I don't know where that is. But as soon as he's settled in, he is going to join us. He believes his Wi-Fi will work today, which, if you've ever sort of watched a stream with Jason, is the reason we haven't had Jason on. Is because he struggles with Wi-Fi issues. He lives in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, and apparently cannot get Wi-Fi out there that's worth a damn. So in the meantime, let's quickly just check out who's hanging out in the comments here. Payne's Toy Samples was first. Mr. Wonderful was a very close second. Allison Troy is hanging out. She says, greetings, my beautiful summer children. Star is here. Mythic Dolphin is here. Quip says, Europe. Correctly spelling it with a P on the end. Nolan is here as well. Hi, Adam, Brick, and chat. Hello to everybody. Payne's Toy Samples says, so he will have better internet. We will see. That's what he believes he has. Whether he does or not, I guess will be. We'll see.
It's so rough that that's a known thing. I feel kind of bad.
I think it's funny because you always, if you've ever seen him sort of on a live stream, he's got what seems like a 15-second delay. So somebody will ask a question and somebody will answer it and somebody will ask another question, and then Jason interrupts with his answer to the previous question, and he just shouts it too. Maybe, I don't know, there's a volume issue with his internet. I don't think that's a thing, but apparently it is for him. Ostradamus Toys is here as well. And Scott Baker is surprisingly on time. Good for you, Scott. Good for you. And glad to have you, of course. We are going to talk today about species that we would like to see in figure form in the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom line. Before we do that, huge shout out to Brick for getting the editing done for AWOK Talk episode 2. If you guys haven't seen it yet, he posted it this morning like a ninja. He just posted it before I was even out of bed. And I think I saw a comment about it somewhere or something, and I was like, wait, what? Go to YouTube. It's there. No nothing. No premiere. Like he didn't mention that it was done. I watched it. You guys, I gotta say, I was in the video and I was blown away. Like I watched it twice because it was that good. The editing was really, really good.
Thank you.
The pacing is on point. The visuals are super good. The next one is due in 2 weeks, and it's guaranteed to be on time, right, Brick?
See, that's the thing. It's deep shame. That's why I was like, let me just sort of sneak it online after sort of sneakily going past my deadline 2 weeks ago. So
it's all fun. I mean, it's the other thing too, like about watching it back myself, is that like we did that like a month ago almost, I think, right? So it was like I couldn't remember all my answers and I couldn't remember what I'd said about certain things. And it's sort of like, this far removed from that conversation, I now know more information than I did, and I'm like, no, I wasn't quite right with that, or I got more to say about something or whatever.
Same. And it helps me kind of like let go to the further away I am, I kind of forget about it. It's like, whatever, that's fine. Just kind of
So this is an old conversation. Just get it out there. It's done. It's fine.
No, but they're fun, man. They're fun. They're fun to edit.
So hopefully people have had the chance to watch that one, because we're kind of in some ways going to pick up where we left off from that, because in that one we did in fact talk about some of the species that we see in the book that we haven't seen in comic or in figure form, that we haven't seen in reveals. Do we want to go over those, or do we want to just kind of jump right into stuff that I'll tell you guys this. We're kind of waiting on Jason, because Jason got some pictures from Joe Fest that we want to show. So we're kind of stalling for time, admittedly, but
we could start talking about cobras. Yo, Joe. No, we could. Before we move on to the animals that we talked, while I was editing, I was kind of like looking for images to show. Yeah. And it was definitely like, oh man, I forgot to talk about these. Mm-hmm. There are goats in there and rams in there that we just sort of glossed over. So I kind of snuck them in the edit. But there's a lot more animals in that book. That's my subtle way of saying, if you haven't already, get the books, but then like really pour over, especially the ones that opening sequence in issue 2, where it's kind of this dream sequence. Mm-hmm. And you see this massive battle of just bodies and people fighting. You really look into those, you see some amazing little creatures. You're like, oh, I can't wait for that figure.
Yeah.
Kind of looking at them like, oh yeah, give me that buck. Give me that. So, and different animals are definitely coming sooner than you think.
Well, do we want? Okay, well, why don't we get into some of the figures that are coming? So they were sort of shown a little bit at the show. We've seen a couple things. We'll get into that when Jason jumps on. We can show his pictures and sort of get his input on those, and then we'll sort of look at the other species there. So bear with me for a moment here, guys. We will look first at what is effectively the first wave that will have new species of animals. So the Gladiator wave, which is of course the 4th wave.
Look at that hyena,
which was on display at Joe Fest in a adorable little acrylic glass case, so that all the drool didn't get on the figures directly. It just got on the case and they could wipe it off. But we do have in this. Whoop. No, getting ahead of myself.
Spoilers.
Shoot.
Sorry, when you said adorable little case, I love how sort of like condescending that sounds. That's great.
Well, it's just like, so when you play with your toys, you don't think of them as being 6 inches, right? Like,
yeah.
So to put them in a glass, in an acrylic case, really makes you objectively realize that these are toys.
Sure.
Whereas in your head, especially as a kid, but I mean, admittedly, even now as an adult, I kind of look at them as though they're a lot bigger, which is weird, but maybe there's sort of a psychology there. But in this wave, so this, like I said, is the first wave that sort of departs ever so slightly from the cats and the apes. So of course we get the hyena in there, as well as the leopard. Now, a leopard is obviously a cat, but there's some new tooling there, some new parts. But the hyena is the first non-cat or non-ape that we get. Interestingly enough, though, it is still a horrid character. As we've sort of talked about in AWOK talk, the horrid seems to be the one group that has more species than the others. Most of them tend to seem pretty homogeneous in terms of the species contained. Chinari is primarily apes, Feralist is primarily cats. We will see Pachydyne and Bovidicus and some other houses hopefully soon that are kind of one species or another, whereas the horrid seems to have a little bit of everything. What are your thoughts on the hyena?
Joe, I think he's great. Again, I'm such an advocate for color. Part of why I love this toy line so much is the embracing of sort of color, right? Mm-hmm. Again, I collect a lot of different things, and you and I both love Mythic Legions, but there was a period there where it was pretty like muted colors, And I
Yeah,
feel
sure.
like with the Poxus wave, we're getting more into color. And now with Cosmic, they're just going like color for days, which is awesome. But this, I look at that could have just been a gray, gray, black, neutral looking hyena, but it's this purple, blue, even in the hair right at the top. It looks like there's a little bit of purple there in the spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally here for it. Love the armor too. The sort of splashes of color blocking going on there. I did wonder though. Yeah, I mean, he looks like some of the horrid folks that are in the book, but this is the Gladiator wave too. So I actually kind of had a question if I was wondering if these might be other creatures that they end up fighting in the arena or something.
I don't remember them fighting those creatures in there. The hyenas are in the book just sort of as horrid soldiers. I think there's a hyena standing guard at a door at one point in one of the first 2 issues.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, and they're a little bit more uniform. I just wonder because I look at the cat next to it too. But yeah, I don't know. Got to take a look again. But I just wondered too because of the armor, right? They've all got a little bit more of a seemingly like a very Gladiator mishmash kind of like shoulder pauldron this. And anyway, I think the hyena is great. He does strike me a little bit. I don't know if this is good or bad, but as sort of the Lion King hyenas, right? Especially the way the sort of the eyes. Yeah,
I see it for sure, and I'm here for it. I mean, those are. I mean, those hyenas. As a kid, I loved Lion King. Obviously, it's not quite anthropomorphized animals, but it's animals that talk and act like people. So it's about as close as you get without being it.
But yeah, kind of defined it. But yeah,
they're still on all fours. But I mean, it doesn't really. But the interesting thing about that too is that the hyena has an articulated jaw, and that's also the first time we're seeing that sort of neck piece. So that additional piece really makes the existing buck look surprisingly different. Like it
changes the silhouette
enough that it doesn't feel like it's the same buck. And again, like you said, with all the color and stuff like that, I've yet to really feel like 2 figures felt the same, even though there's not a ton of reuse of parts yet. I'm very happy with how Jason and the team has used color and part swapping to make the figures feel different and fresh and new. The wave after this one, so this is the 4th wave. The 5th wave.
Wait, go back. Let's not gloss over that cat though. Look at that cat. Same kind of thing. That blue, the yellow, the pop on that guy is amazing. Anyway,
100%.
I love the way that thing looks. I don't want to give the hyena all the love. And then the Gladiator paint sort of things, I'm a bit of a sucker for that. Like
pale and collie
tribal
Gladiator
markings.
paint colors. And I don't have the pictures here, but when we look at the sort of the Joe Fest shots, we will see these figures with their accessories, and the accessories that these come with are pretty great because they look kind of worn out and almost rusted. The Gladiator weapons, the weapons that they're given aren't great weapons. I imagine the swords being dull and just sort of blunt and just they're swords in name, but more of a blunt object in nature. But we'll see. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for all of them. So I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that I'm jumping ahead to Wave 5 is because Wave 5 has some absolute bangers in it, as far as I'm concerned. So this is, of course, what's being referred to as the Mala Wave. So we get female figures, which, although not a new species, it feels like a different species, for sure. Then again, another ape, but it looks, slimmer. It's a little bit smaller. So it feels again like a new species, or at least another species of ape, even though it's one of many apes. But then of course we get Kanji, the rabbit, which he's currently sort of sitting at the top of my favorite figures that I've seen as far as reveals, personally. But I just I'm a little bit of a sucker for slimmer figures. You mentioned Mythic Legions, and with Mythic Legions, the 2.0, body type, the smaller body type, I just really like.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited for this wave. And
Yeah, I
again,
mean, it took us what,
stunning
5
colors.
waves to get some women? But yeah. Which I guess in sort of like action figure circles sometimes is treated like a different species, it feels like, you know,
Mhm.
but they're great. I mean, I was joking around with Allison this morning about that, but I look at these two, um, again, color, right? Jadu's like bright shock of hair. I was commenting on that when I was looking at the comics to Mala's gear, right? This sort of like purple, blue. I mean, I'm wearing a black shirt. Like I don't gravitate to colors generally, and I have to kind of go out of my way to wear color.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of surprised that I've really glommed onto the colors in this line and been a lot more sort of aware of it. I think a lot of it is we've talked a lot about how this property definitely seems to like there's something unique about the way it embraces that 80s time period, even that 80s turn flowing into the 90s, right? That Ninja Turtles bright colors. Um anyway, I really like the way they're looking, and I'm excited to have a again a different buck.
Mhm.
So it's essentially the 3 at this point. By wave 5 we'll have the sort of like, I don't know, we'll call him 1.0, or we'll call him the pale buck,
Mhm.
right? And then we've got Thane and the big buck, and then the female buck. So have you, because I know how your brain works, and I know you've really looked at all these different figures. You were talking about, I haven't seen a whole lot of parts reuse, but I'm sure there's got to be part of your brain where you've looked at all the different armor pieces, right?
Oh no,
I
there's been tons of parts reused.
Okay. Oh,
Like
okay,
I
got
can
it.
there's only so many. Well, I mean
Yes.
there's like up to now 2 sets of legs. I
That's what I was
think
gonna
two
say. I
sets
know
of
you've got
arms.
numbers in your brain. You've got that spreadsheet in your brain.
3 chests.
Uh-huh.
You know, however many head. There's more heads than anything else. But they're like it's a very limited number of parts. But the way that they've used it
Yeah.
has been awesome.
So am I right that the sort of like loincloth piece armor gets flipped? Is that what happens with some of them? Because
Sorry,
I
Jason messaged me and I'm reading that. Say that
oh
again.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
that their sort of loincloth armor piece, the waistcoat thing gets turned around, right? And some for some figures.
I don't think so. There's actually a surprising number of those too.
Okay.
I haven't seen one get flipped, but design wise, I think there's good use of sculpting
Okay. Because
there.
there's a lot of new pieces going on here, even with the Lepin, the what's his name again? Kanji.
Kanji.
That's a new body, a torso, right?
Oh, this wave is 100% new tooling.
So is he the same as that horrid on the? I'm assuming horrid guy on the far right, same body.
So the horrid assassin is the same body as the rabbit.
Okay, same torso. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's
And
gonna
Jason's
be.
here, but he's not here. Let's.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah. It's like there's just a white screen. Hold on, let me see what happens when I add him to the stream. He's showing here, but not. So he said he says that it's too loud where he is.
I heard
But
something
he
in
also
there.
says that after the Mala wave, there'll be
Dude, I can't get over how strong that margarita is.
There he is.
It's
there
like,
he is.
There's two
I've
of
had
them.
a margarita in Mexico, and it was like
yes,
a little less strong
Awesome.
than
We're
that.
hearing Tim talking about drinks. It's great. Margarita in Mexico. What was that again?
Everyone can see and hear us.
Yes.
Yes.
yes, we can. How's it going, folks?
I don't
Yo,
know.
Joe.
I'm not sure. Can you guys hear us?
Yep.
Okay. So it is a little bit loud here, but I just wanted to say that you guys are doing awesome. We had a really, really awesome show. It was our first show that we actually had product at, and we brought.
You brought something.
I wanted to pop on and say that you guys, or you nailed the wave breakdowns and everything. And I was talking with a production manager. Just don't undo what I'm saying. I was talking to the production manager, and we've got margaritas.
2 drinks, but 1 chair. Is that what's going on there? Oh, we lost him again.
Whenever you
Well, it was worth a shot.
whenever you show up the lizard figure, we're going to be doing just for that figure. We're going to be doing just we're going to be doing the lizard figure, and we're going to be doing hand. And the reason behind that is we want to. It's two brand new bucks and two completely new sets of tools. We want to around, doing tooling and then adding to it so that even if it's a reuse, it's a little bit too much of a strain on the factory to get out something quickly. And we really want to try to get 4 waves out per year, and tooling's done. Then the follow-up waves will have a whole bunch of different that we can reuse, and we'll kind of into the 4-figure waves. But we didn't realize how loud it was going to be in here. we're at a restaurant. We thought it was going to be, but we just wanted to pop in real quick and that you guys are awesome and watching and supporting us. That pail, that necro armor pail, it doesn't have pupils for that sample, but the production version will have pupils. So we're gonna hop off and let you guys take over, and we'll be watching the show. Thank y'all so much.
Thanks, guys. Short and sweet.
Did you catch that?
So, well, he tried.
I'm with Renato. I'm pretty. I think it's 1 drink, 2 straws, 1 chair, celebrating a happy Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe. I mean, it's so the message that Jason sent that I think he was trying to say, but I don't know how much got through there. That after the Mala wave, there will be 2 brand new figures as well. So the Hannibal figure as well as this reptile. So the Hannibal is a new buck as well. The lizard is a completely new buck as well. You can't necessarily see it from this picture, but let me see. I'm gonna pull it down because Jason sends me more pictures than he says I'm allowed to show sometimes. So let me find a picture of the lizard body without the armor.
Such the rule follower.
Well, I mean, I want to see more pictures. So if I don't follow the rules, I can get in trouble. So there it is there. Hold on, people sending me notifications. This is just my Facebook. So there's the lizard, both with the new armor, and it is new armor on there. At least the shoulder armor. Yeah. New sword as well. But that's the armored up pail as well, and then
he called it the
stripped down lizard.
Right?
What's that?
Is that what I caught him say? Necro, like death.
Yeah, he's calling it the necro armor pail. So that's full disclosure. I don't know what that means. I have seen all these figures before. He sent me these pictures when he was painting. So this lizard, you can see it's got a closed mouth, on the armored one, and an open mouth over here. It is an articulated jaw. And it's like the whole jaw. So, basically from the temple to the temple, there's a lower jaw piece that moves. And I've seen it from the side, and it like the articulation is such that it doesn't interrupt the sculpt. It looks really, really good. And it's like I said, it's a whole new buck. So I was talking about, there's only so many arms, so many legs. This is new arms, new legs, new feet, new hands. Even the neck is different. So it's gonna be, brand new parts.
That's what I'm intrigued by. Can you zoom in on that neck again? I'm assuming it's a ball, like a dumbbell, but like wider at the base.
Quite a bit, wider, quite a bit thicker.
Interesting.
So it's kind of, with the wave that we were looking at, that wave 4, where they have that neck piece kind of goes over the existing kind of neck assembly. Whereas this is sort of somewhere in between in terms of like the width, but it's fully articulated. So
yeah, it looks like it's inside the neck of the torso, right? Like it's got a ball in there or something. I love the look of these lizards. It's really like you know, we're getting other lizards in like Savage Crucible, right? I love how sort of different they are. I don't know. It's very, the width of it I like, right? The width of that head is very cool. Yeah, these are great.
And I mean, we're getting distracted because we kind of got the order of how we were doing things.
Yeah, that's fine.
Basically thrown out the window. But you know, this was sort of why we were talking about this today, because we're now starting to get different species. We're now starting to see some different stuff.
Yeah.
Let me just jump into the comments because I've been not so much ignoring as just not able to check them out.
Yeah, no, totally. I was trying to see if I could click them, but
Noel was saying they're looking incredible. That was when we were showing, you know, waves 4 and 5. Star asked, so we are getting more species, and Star's seen the new species now. Says yes. Payne agrees that it's fantastic coloration, although my computer for whatever reason doesn't want me to. There it is. Star says, honestly, the all apes wasn't doing it for me, but with all the different kinds of animals, this is getting very exciting. And I've been saying this for a few minutes now, that, you know, the apes and cats aren't going to be for everyone. You know, there's always going to be people that kind of look at the apes and think Planet of the Apes, and see the cats and just think Thundercats. Once we start getting into the lizards, you know, and some of the other animals, you know, the hyenas, we'll look at more pictures as well of turnaround shots. We'll look at turnaround shots before we look at sort of animals that we would like to see. And I mean, even once we get into turnaround shots, you go, yeah, there's going to be some wild stuff coming here.
Yep.
I think this line is a line that people are still kind of not quite sure, or no, I take that back. It's not that people aren't sure that these are cool figures. It's that people might not have seen a species that kind of does something for them. You know, they haven't had the species that is sort of their favorite animal. But I think it's going to come, and I think it's going to come sooner rather than later with like all the cool stuff that they've got coming. So I can't wait. I mean, I'm just so excited for all the stuff that I know is coming, and then all the stuff that I want to come as well. I just feel like there's also just a matter of time. Like, pick your favorite animal, and it's probably going to be in the line at some point soon. So
it's funny when you think about like what people are drawn to, because I you know, we've kind of talked informally about some of the reviews that are coming out, and there really hasn't been anything negative that folks are saying. But I think what's been clear to me is that at least, you know, a lot of folks that I watch do toy reviews, they're like, these are great figures, love them, but that they're still sort of missing that connection. Like you said, maybe it's a different species, but I think a lot of it's too is that you know, when they're doing He-Man, it's like, oh, look at, it's another great version of a Masters of the Universe character that I know and love. G.I. Joe Classified, yay, they got the Dragonfly. So there's that piece that I hear people get really enthusiastic about, and there's definitely. So I do wonder, like, is being sort of fantasy adjacent enough for a good amount of people, like a critical mass of people? Is it the animal thing? I don't know. But I think that's why when you and I are kind of going through the comics, when people are saying like, oh, the all apes thing, if you're not familiar and haven't looked at those comics yet, or maybe watch some of the other videos, like there are a crap ton of animals in this, and animals that are not of Earth as well.
Yes.
Creatures that are involved in the story that seem to be sort of being teased and set up. Plus there's a whole sort of overarching lore that all these characters that we're following are all descended from some version of humans, likely humans from Earth who destroyed Earth. So like the possibilities of where they're going, it's not just cats and apes by any means. And I suspect that it's going to get super weird. Yeah.
I'll even say this because, like I said, Jason's shown me some stuff and sort of told me some animals that they plan on doing. There are animals that I know are coming that I intentionally didn't include in my list of things that I want to see. So even beyond, you know, what we're going to talk about as far as what we want, and sort of the turnaround shots, some of the stuff that he's like, yeah, and I'm going to have this species as sort of this stereotype. I'm like, that's so clever. And just like, you wouldn't think to use certain animals in the ways that he's thinking to do it. But like, anyway, I'm going to try to quickly catch up as best I can in the comments because we're way behind and the conversation is happening there, and it's happening. It's a great conversation going on. Star says, think they'll eventually start tinkering with the body proportions to get some variation of character. That was right before we showed Wave 5. And then basically, loving the rabbit just because he's so different from the others. Yes.
Yep.
Variation in size, variation in everything, right? So like we've talked about, Wave 1 and 2 were almost entirely the same size. Although Thane was in Wave 2 and he was bigger. In Wave 4, we will get, some more pieces for the body to sort of add some variation. Wave 5, we see the smaller buck as well as the female buck. And then Hannibal will be a new mold, a new figure, which will be, to the best of my knowledge, slightly smaller than Thane, but bigger than the pale buck, if we want to call it that, like you said. Payne's toy samples, who I know is all in on this line, says my wallet is crying. But thankfully, Jason is doing those 4-figure waves, 3 to 4 per year. So, you're not going to be looking at $500 all-in waves, where if you want to try to keep up as far as being a completist, I think it's pretty manageable. And I think that's Jason as a collector understanding that, people collect other things. There's limited funds for everybody, and you can't just buy more toys because there's more toys. So he's taken a very clever path, I think, as far as that goes.
That's right. If you do the math at 4 figures each 4 times a year, you're maybe going, depending on like if they have bigger figures, maybe like 600 a year, right? And part of that is kind of what I was alluding to, is that while I think, and from my read, there is a general consensus that these are quality-wise great figures, sculpt-wise, design-wise, super creative, all of that. Like, I haven't heard anything negative about that. Articulation surpasses a lot of the figures that you and I collect. But what's sort of missing, I think, for people is that sort of like strong connection to get real passionate about it. So given that, people are still going to be collecting G.I. Joe Classified and Marvel Legends, and then maybe, squeeze an AWOK figure or 2 into that as you kind of get, and the pace of it kind of does work for that kind of like market, if you will. So anyway,
Star asks, are these characters unified in different tribes or groups? If so, are they going to have some kind of unified clothing or armor to show their allegiances? Yes, they are unified into kind of tribes. Some are like the Chunari is a tribe. Then there's House Fairlist. The Horrid is just called the Horrid. So all the bad guys are the Horrid. And typically their sort of armor styles and colors indicate those things. It's not 100%, but basically Chunari, usually has red armor. The Horrid is kind of blue and purple. House Fairlist is browns and golds and things like that. So they are, there's overlap. And then you get
the
like
Lepin are sort of green,
which is just an absolute mess because they're just stealing shit wherever they can. So the colors are they got mismatched pauldrons, mismatched shin guards, like everything's mismatched. Renato is here. What's going on, Renato? Quip said, so rad. Bunny Warriors are always welcome. Absolutely. Renato makes a good point. No one drinks with 2 straws. I'm telling you, man, there's and Payne's, I brought this one up, but poor Jason, even away his internet hates him. I don't know. It's
oh, sorry, I read the Renato thing. I think he's saying no, 1 drink with 2 straws.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I read it wrong too. Yes, you're probably right. Star, are there tails on any of these figures? No. I petitioned for that, and I'm still going to continue to petition for that.
It's a very touchy subject. I mean, it's real. Tails can be very personal things. So for the most part, they're pretty modest and hide them in their clothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a cultural thing.
There's species where I think they're more warranted, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll get when we get to things that we'd like to see. We'll definitely get into that.
I think there's a fear. That's the main reason they couldn't go to big box retails, because they didn't, never mind. Keep going.
I mean, effectively, what it comes down to in the first waves that we've seen so far is cost. It's just really expensive to tool that, and it's just, it would just cost more. Engineering wise, you'd be paying more for the engineering. You'd be paying for the mold for that piece, and you couldn't reuse some of the pieces that are already existing, basically. So we will see. I think eventually there's certain characters that he'd like to have with Tails, or at least that's sort of my understanding. So they just might get, pushed a little bit further.
I absolutely want him, but I will say, again, this is not an excuse, because I do want them to have Tails. But a lot of the figures that I do have Tails do kind of get a little bit in the way on the shelf.
Yes, and it can often figures with Tails are quite imbalanced if you don't do it right.
Yep. I mean, on the extreme end, you've got the gargoyles, which are just nuts. Those tails are like really long. And then I had Krampus is the same kind of thing. Oftentimes, I'll just take the tail off.
Yeah, I didn't put it on my Krampus either.
Yeah.
Star says, I figured he'd be wearing alligator skin armor, snake skin belts, etc. Well,
you talking about the lizard?
Yeah, I think so. I think Star, I don't know if you're aware or not that these are basically humans that have been turned into animals. So that then it would be like, I would see a lizard wearing, like rabbit skin rather than its own species skin. But they're all the same species if they're all human, but they're all different animal species. It gets complicated. But I don't know. That's a good point. What I will say though is that I can bring this up and sort of I don't know if it's going to translate. Can you see the texture? Like, this is all textured. So it does kind of have like more of a leather, like that pebbled leather kind of a look to it.
Yep.
Whether you can see it or not, that is how it looks. But anyway,
the
Necro Armor Pale. I mean, that slicked back hair looks pretty menacing.
Yeah, it looks like a Viking.
Scott says Pale cleans up real nice. Necro or naked armor? I like this Necro armor. I'm curious to see like what this has to do story wise with the character, because I mean Pale, as we've seen him, has been the least adorned character as far as sort of equipment goes. So we'll see.
If you're not following the lore stuff, which you should, check back on the AWOK talk 2 episodes that we've done, kind of taking us through that. But Pale is essentially a clone of the villain of the world, Kali, and sort of an experiment, one of the first quote unquote successful clones. We don't exactly know what that means, but there's a lot of hints that he can be used essentially as maybe a body or some kind of essence transfer, maybe. But the fact that I'm looking at this one here with Pale, slick back hair, in essentially what's the same as Kali's armor is intriguing to me. In Chennai colors.
And essentially Kali's hairstyle.
That's right. He pulled it back. Yeah. So who knows what's going on, but it's intriguing.
And I'm skipping over a whole bunch of comments. I'm sorry, guys, because I'm way behind at this point. Is the lore behind this more sword and sorcery or sci-fi fantasy? I think initially people thought it was more sword and sorcery, but it is way more sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
It's interstellar space travel or interplanetary space travel. There's energy weapons. There's mechs. And then within the lore, you learn that like the Chunari, the ape tribe, sort of chooses to go the more natural route. So they don't really have that stuff. They ride mounts that look more like horses. They use swords and blades more than they use, the energy weapons. But then Horde on the other end of the spectrum leans really heavy into technology. So You kind of get both because you do get sword and sorcery. But I would say that this world is a sci-fi fantasy style of world more so than it is a sword and sorcery style of world.
Again, Star, check out AWOK Talk. Lots of cool stuff in there that'll lay all that out. I will also say that we don't fully know yet, right? Because I think with Vero Atlas, we know the magic is involved. We don't know to what extent. So I think honestly, Jason's just playing with a palette of things that he loves and grew up with, and it's all kind of being worked in there.
A couple people sort of mentioning things that they'd like. Sebastian Leduc says, I'd love a Thinnerbuck cheetah figure character. Absolutely. I would like that as well. Ninja Knight mentioned insects. A couple people mentioned insects. And I'm just trying to catch up on these so that we can Payne's toy samples. Do vestigial tails count? Renato says size doesn't matter. A tail is a tail. It's what you do with it. It's not the size that matters. Start of these characters live in different kingdoms and territories on their world. Reptile Kingdom is in the swamp. Yes, so they all kind of have their different. I would strongly recommend Star if you're interested. The comic books are available for a digital download on spirotoys.com for $2 a piece. They are well worth it. They are a great comic book. There's only 4. So for $8, you could be all caught up. But Brick and I also do a lore-based show on his channel. We're 2 episodes in, so you won't it won't take you too long to get caught up on that either. We absolutely love the lore, and then sort of the figures go hand in hand with that. They were once human. I didn't know that. That opens up a whole new area of lore potentially. Yes, it absolutely does, man. And it's so good. Like it's lore that we've said, seems familiar, but is so unique and fun.
Yep.
Perhaps some hate the mutation and want to return to human. Well, check out the comments.
You're right there, man. You're right there. You're so close. So
we keep.
I think you're gonna love it, Star. You're gonna love it.
Or comments. That's why I'm trying to get caught up.
Yeah.
Just like
you're gonna love it.
Quip says mechs. You say, yeah, we've said that a bunch of times. There are mechs in the there's flying mechs, there's walking mechs, there's different stuff. Different scales are coming. The gorilla that's coming in wave 2, which is Thane, is bigger than these guys by quite a bit. And
Hannibal's in between.
Yeah,
Hannibal's a giant.
Sorry, I gotta pull this down. I'll find the gorilla so that we can.
Sorry, a giant. What's the word? Lion.
Well, I can show this one. This is actually wave 3, but it works. So these are figures from wave 3. So there you see that sort of standard size figure.
Look at that.
And then this is a repaint of Thane, so the gorilla is bigger. This is a horrid figure here, but let me see. I think I'm safe for a few slots. Oh shoot! I don't want to.
Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. Yeah.
Well, I don't know which direction I could go with those slides before I hit the pictures that I'm not allowed to show. Yeah,
you included them in there?
I know which direction I can work. I'll start with this one because this was what I sent in response to something that Jason sent me, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding that." But so here we get. So these are pictures from Joe Fest. We'll just quickly go through these. And then we'll go into the turnarounds, and then we'll go into figures that we want because we're already 45 minutes in, and I would say at this point we're about 30 minutes behind schedule. So these are just pictures that Jason sent me from Joe Fest. Those capes are from Harker's Customs. Mythic Legion's capes will typically work with like the new wired ones. I put that Dubin cape on a Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figure, and it looked great. So here's the two here. So here's Thane and Pale. So there you go.
That's my Dubin face, by the way.
Blight is coming in wave 2. Just awesome.
Look at that
character. Cordoon, Vero Atlas, Lexion, and then a figure from wave 3 there. That's the horde sort of soldier that comes with wave 3. Vero Atlas looks awesome. Lexion, this character on the left here, is from the Pirate Guild, which is why he has brown and orange and sort of different colors, is because all his armor is borrowed. I don't know if the person that doesn't have it anymore knows that it was borrowed, but that Vero Atlas figure, like how good does that staff look? Like that crystal dagger that you know, he's a magic user, so
take a look at that shield too. I didn't really talk too much about it, but see how they're having it on his back. I love that it's got that sort of like texture, that waffle sort of texture there, so that even on display it looks interesting. It looks really good. Cool stuff.
And then so this is the rest of Wave 3 available for order now on spirotoys.com or I believe eCollectibles.ca. And if it's not up yet, it will be up very soon. I was told it would be up today. So hit up eCollectibles.ca if you're in Canada and want to get these. That's the way I'm going. So I've been sort of asking Mike politely and just reminding him, like, can you put it up so I can get my order in? Because they all look awesome. And you get, this is another thing, you know, wasn't necessarily shown in a lot of the pictures. There's the alternate head for that Feralist Stalker, which I think looks awesome. That repaint is great. This guy looks
same for that Horde infantry
really good
too. The Horde infantry that you were in the last one also has an alternate head.
Yeah,
that was kind of sitting there. Yeah, and they're great.
So you're gonna need automatically 2 of each of those figures. This guy comes with an alternate head as well, so I mean, you may as well get 2 of those.
When you mentioned where to get them,
they're all army builders, so buy 2 of these.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I thought you were going a particular place when you were mentioning where to pick them up, but you'll be happy to know, Adam, that they are also now, this wave is also now available on Big Bad Toy Store.
Sure.
Yeah.
But order them from Jason at Spiro. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, that's...
And actually, unlike some of the other lines that you and I collect, I was surprised because I actually completely spaced on ordering Wave 3, aside from the game. And I thought I'd missed it. And so I've been trained by the 4 Horsemen to think, oh no, now the prices are going to go up at the retailers. But they're not, right? I was like, oh, essentially, like there's some deals to be had over on Spiro, but just so you know, you're not going to see a huge jump by going, you know, not directly to Spiro. That's what I thought was going to happen. Oh my God, look at these weapons.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So this is that new wave. This is the first wave where we'll get some new tooling. So we get the new shoulder pauldrons are new. You can't see it, but the hyena comes with like a big kind of cleaver of an axe. Aha Kim comes with this kind of Aztec looking, like it almost looks wooden,
like Mexica influenced.
Yeah, like
fascinating. Yeah.
And then the 2 gladiators, you know, come with their sort of, like I said, they kind of look rusted and sort of worn out. You know, both of them have these blades. You can't see it great in these pictures, but I can assure you from other pictures that I've seen, like these blades have kind of the same finish that this shield does in terms of just looking kind of rusted and kind of just corroded. And they don't look like weapons that you'd necessarily reach for if you were given the choice.
Do you know what sort of faction that cat belongs to?
No, I don't. And it's interesting that you asked that because I assumed it would be Feralist, but then, you know, the more I look at, you know, colors and coloration and sort of using color to identify, you know, tribes and things.
And that weapon.
Then that weapon, I go, I don't think this guy's Feralist. I think there's something else going on here. I think there's going to be more story that we get.
I think that's why my brain went to the Gladiator thing. It's like almost like they were all just sort of like brought in to be gladiators.
It's possible. I mean, we didn't see him in the Gladiator ring when Pale and Atreyu were in the ring. We didn't see them in the comic, so I don't 100% know. I'm very curious because he doesn't look like a pirate because his armor matches. But he doesn't look like Feralist because there's no brown. You know, that blue is very vibrant. And apart from the Horde, we haven't really seen any blue.
Yeah.
But this doesn't feel like a horrid figure at all. So
And the
let the
colors on the
speculation
hyena.
begin.
Yeah, and I think the colors on the hyena are also interestingly more muted than those renders. Right? He doesn't seem to have
Yep.
purple on the head.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just the render because it's
Mhm.
it does look a little more kind of Lexion in terms of
Mhm.
color. Like it's gray with spots.
Yep.
Whether it will have some purple highlight or not, I think would be a cool touch. Like you said, like sort of on the tuft of hair. It's less of a mohawk and it's more just the way a hyena's head kind of looks. But yeah.
What about that the details on those spots? I don't know. I've said this before. I want to be a fly on the wall in these factories, right? Like I want to see them do these things, but I wonder um yeah, to recreate that. Do you think that's like a
It would be
printing tech?
tempo, so
Yeah,
it would,
it's a
you
patterning thing,
know,
yeah.
it's just a matter of sort of lining it up properly. And
Yeah.
if you've got the jigs right,
Yeah.
it should be pretty straightforward. I'm always surprised when they get them really screwed up. Like Marvel Legends is really bad for that, right? Having eyes that are looking
Mhm.
in two different directions, and it's sort of like if you line the head up and the tempo is correct, you
Yeah.
shouldn't have that issue. But what do I know? I don't work in a factory.
And these
Um,
armor that cat has, those are two separate over the shoulder pieces, right?
yes, yeah.
Very
Yeah, so
cool.
you should be able to remove them sort of separately, and they could kind of go to different figures. I had that core Dune, and I took those off with great anxiety. But yeah, they come off and they fit. They fit really incredibly well. Like they're molded so well to the shoulders that they fit nice and snug. They don't feel like they're. It's a floating piece in that it's not
Mhm.
connected, but they don't shift and move, and you don't have to kind of keep correcting them. Like they're molded really well around the torso too, where they hit.
Just
Um,
rests there.
yeah, where
Mhm.
they hit
Yep.
kind of on the side of the
Yep.
torso, just because of the way that it's kind of molded,
Yep.
they seem to fit perfectly, and they just
Conforms to the body.
oh, perfectly. Yes.
Check out your boy's ponytail. New piece, yeah?
No, it's the
Oh, is that
same
his
head.
arm? That's a weapon.
It's
Sorry.
I saw it too, and I was like, "What is going on there?"
Yeah, I
It's
thought
a
that because they
weapon
could
on his
easily do
back.
like a special hairpiece. But
No,
yeah,
no,
okay, that
no.
makes sense.
No, it's this. It's the same Atreyu head, just a different color, different paint
Okay.
sort of deco. I mean, I think that color looks a little bit cleaner than the Wave One figure does, personally. But you know, I'm gonna have both in my collection, so I don't think it really makes a difference.
Yeah. All right, sorry, we can move on.
And then of
I
course
actually
we
haven't
got
seen all these, so
and then
that's
we
why
got this.
I'm
We've sort of discussed this already. There's Tanger, the big. So this is the PowerCon exclusive. If you haven't already, you might still be able to order it through PowerCon. I do think Big Bad Toy Store does have this figure for pre-order. It's more to pre-order this figure from Big Bad Toy Store than I'm paying to get it shipped to me.
yeah.
But to each their own. If you missed it, you still have the opportunity to get it. This is sort of a Beast Man tribute repaint of Thane, and I'm pretty happy to be getting one of these. Then we have these. So these are the figures that this is just to show the armor pack. So these are going to be the ancient one figures. So these are like basic figures, but armor packs will be available when they release Wave 3 as well. So there's this sort of brown armor pack. There is a red and blue armor pack, which is a Chinari armor pack, and then a Horrid armor pack as well with that muted blue and the purple. So those look really, really good. I'm very, very much looking forward to those armor packs because that means that those ancient ones won't just be sort of dangling out there in the cold with no accessories and sort of no we got the weapons packs, but weapons you want a little bit more, I think. So and that's what we had from Joe Fest. Thoughts on what we've seen so far? I'm going to try to get into the comments here, and then we will get into the slides that I have, but I just got to figure out which slide we're doing.
I mean, I shared my thoughts along the way. I think it's really exciting to kind of finally see some of these newer figures that we kind of pointed out early on, like the hyena changing the shape a little bit, the lizard sort of giving us something totally new. I love just sort of seeing, I hadn't seen those weapons until you showed them right now. I guess I didn't see those in the coverage that's out there. So that intrigues me. I'm always sort of excited by having some variety. Part of me is kind of like, oh, it's a little weird that they're sort of like taking these influences from different cultures, but like, given that they're human, okay, yeah, some of that stuff retains, right? I've always even looked at sort of Kali's armor setup, and it's kind of this interesting mix of West and kind of like Chinese and Asian armors. His name's Kali, but so I've been intrigued by that. So I'm really excited to see that weapon. I was like, oh, what could that mean for this character? Anyways, it's cool, and seeing Tanger is great too. It's interesting to see how, as we've been saying, how different they look with a different paint job. There's something about the eyes, the way those eyes are done too, that it actually does seem a little bit different from the rest of the AWOK figures in some ways. I could totally see it working as a beast man, just straight up.
Working through the comments, Star, you have several lore questions. Feel free to reach out to Brick or I, but we could go on about lore for hours, so I'm going to skip some of those.
Right there with you, Star, though, the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
We're there.
I will bring this comment up, and I will bring up this screen, because it'll make sense why I'm doing both of these things in a moment. But just speaking about characters that we've seen turnaround shots for that we expect to see in the line, just based on the fact that we've talked about them, we've heard about them. Naranya is an orangutan in House Chinari. We've been effectively told by Jason that we will be getting this figure. This is the Fang Torn Knight, so there is another group called Fang Torn, which is canines. This is a wolf. The wolf head isn't here, but we see the back of the wolf head in the middle there. We see the sort of armored head on the left and far right, but in the center it's the unarmored. So this will come with an unarmored head, or at least that's what I've been told. If you've read the comic and you know when the Fang Torn is introduced, it also comes with I hope it will come with a particular accessory that will add a ton of play value. This is the one that relates to that comment. So this is the Void. He is sort of the evolution. There was two versions of the comic. We're sort of currently in the second one. And in the second one, he is a wolf. But this is definitely one of those mutations where he is a little more beast than he is man. I would say fairly confidently. Star, you also mentioned this one. Maybe down the road we get mutations that are losing their viability. The viability of the mutations and of clones is something that's within the lore as well. So it's definitely in there. And then you asked, do you think we'll get more futuristic or tech armor and weapons? Well, between this and some other things that we get in issue 3, I think yes. The answer is yes. We absolutely will. Like I said, there's more sort of energy weapons and more tech, and the figures as they stand now, if you just looked at pictures of the figures, do not do justice to what this IP is. So that's where I'm going to leave sort of the discussion on lore and sort of questions on lore for the time being. Again, straight out of the comic books, Payne's Toy Sample says, I want the human Kali. Scott Baker says, I want that massive Kali they've teased. Yes, so human Kali, who appears in the comic book, he's right there in issue 1. I missed it the first time. But the massive Kali is called Kali Prime. And we have seen turnaround shots for him as well. This is the Raving. So this is a crow turnaround shot. So we get into birds.
God, I'm so curious where this is going story-wise, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You
Look at
also,
this
just
guy.
going back just for a moment, right? You've now given humans the ability to fly, which is also pretty interesting. And sort of how does that change? You know, where do these guys live? Did these guys live, you know, on a cliff where nobody could access them? Like from a military perspective, right? You could be pretty darn safe if you could fly and everybody else can't. A walrus that we've seen in a turnaround shot. No name, no sort of reference for this one. This is the pachyderm. So this is a turnaround shot for the elephant that we've seen. We have been told, or at least I have been told, that this guy will be a big boy, probably from 10 to 12 inches tall. We will see.
All of these turnarounds are also Utama's work, yeah?
Yes.
Great
yeah.
stuff.
So the guy who does the art for the comic book is doing the art for the turnaround shots. I
love seeing more of the rough, the pencil in the middle and the right one. It's great.
Yeah, so some of the turnarounds come and they're way more inked. You know, you see all three of these have all the color all the way across, and then some are a little more rudimentary. You definitely see more detail in the colored one, and then you get a little bit less.
While you're there, just thinking about what we're getting, we know we're getting Thane. That doesn't match up with Thane's body type necessarily, right? Oops,
no, it's a new. It would be a new buck.
New. Same with the walrus. The walrus maybe could look like Laranya, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I spent a ton of time with the turnaround shots because I have a stack of them. And I would just look at, like, I would kind of lay them on top of each other and look at the feet and the legs because parts that are going to get reused, they don't redraw. So, you know, if there's a crease in an arm or a crease in a leg, you can see it sort of across 2 or 3 turnaround shots, and you go, okay, that's that buck. This is this buck, and you can kind of match things. Hannibal will be the same. So, you know, maybe this is sort of something to look forward to, something to hope for. Hannibal appears to be the same buck as Kali Prime and the Void.
Okay. Yeah.
Which means as soon as we get Hannibal, it kind of opens the door for those other ones. Laranya looks the same as the Walrus, and another one that I will mention later that we've had a turnaround shot for. The Raving appears to reuse parts from those Wave 5 figures. So the more slender buck, it looks to be the same torso and upper legs. New arms and new lower legs. Obviously new head. It's a crow. That's totally different from what we've seen before. So
what about the Fangtorn?
Totally Fangtorn, I believe, is all new because it's fully armored. We haven't had a fully armored character. I didn't even think to look that closely at the torso to see if it matches up, but I'm pretty sure it's a totally new torso. Yeah, I'm just looking at it again. I scrolled back. It looks like it's completely new.
And Mr. Wonderful's asking Kali Prime. Maybe wondering which, probably the same as the Void.
Yeah, didn't I say that? Kali Prime, same as Hannibal, same as the Void.
Okay, or maybe
maybe he's asking.
Maybe he didn't know what Kali Prime was. Yeah.
So Kali Prime is a gigantic Kali with like he put his angry eyes on, as Mr. Potato Head would say. It looks nasty and menacing. He has a shield that just basically is his forearm. It's this big gorilla head thing. I have the turnaround shot, but I couldn't find a picture of it, and I didn't get a picture of it in time to add it. But it looks great. Mr. Wonderful, I'll send you a picture so that you know. But needless to say, I think he's going to be a pretty hot figure when we get that one. Nolan says the Walrus gives me Wally Walrus vibes. Star, I'd like to see a full human hunter character who's out to score trophies from these characters.
I mean, the dude from Thundercats.
Yeah. I could see it. I mean, if these are sort of humans that have had manipulated DNA, and we've talked about this, you know, in the lore videos, Brick, that like we know about these characters, but the thing about any story is that you're only given what you're presented with, and we've sort of discussed and sort of debated, are there humans that didn't get affected by this DNA manipulation? So there could very well be humans, and we just haven't seen them yet. So we'll see. Scott Baker says, I still get excited every time I see all these turnarounds. Me too. And like,
he also has the stack, like you.
I also have a stack, so I can look like when I'm going to bed, I just lay them on my pillow. I lay them on my pillow and I just look at one and just fall asleep like that.
Yeah, it looks like Scott has some too. If you go two comments down,
I think I didn't bring that up. I think he's commenting on my comment.
Oh,
maybe he does. Scott, do you have turnaround shots?
Or no, maybe
well?
Yeah. Sorry, I get it now. Reading emoji saying.
Scott, do you have turnaround shots as well, or is it just me?
That's adorable, Adam.
Ted Darklaw says, "Hey friends, popping in for a few before dinner. What's going on, Ted?" Yeah. Nolan says, like Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, that would actually be really dope. And that would be really cool too. Like, he could be a big bad in a new story arc, right? Like it could be like a Kraven the Hunter story arc where like all of a sudden the good guys are being hunted and maybe they don't even know who it is, right? Maybe that could be how they introduce humans back into this ecosystem, is that, a human is hunting the animals kind of thing. Oh man, now I gotta message Jason and tell him that he should do that if he isn't already.
Pale and Blight have to team up.
Oh man.
Who knows?
Or even Kali, right? Like,
yeah, so I was thinking too, Kali.
Yeah. Endless possibilities. Let's get into animals that we would like to see, because that was sort of the whole premise of what we were doing here.
Yeah.
We will start with the rhino. This was one of your picks, Rick. We've seen a turnaround for a rhino. Have you not seen that one, or did you forget that was already in there?
I forgot that was a thing. Do you have it available? There's been so many, and they've kind of been in different places. That even you bringing up the Fangborn. I forgot. He went back and forth, right? Yeah, they went back. They were Fangborn, then Fangtorn. Yeah, I completely forgot that those existed until you brought up. I knew they were in the comic, and so.
Okay, let me go back and correct myself. Laranya is the same. Laranya has the same buck as the walrus.
Wally Walrus.
And the warthog.
Oh, that's right. There's a warthog too.
And since I have these out, and making an absolute mess of them, this is Kali Prime. Why don't I pull this down?
Yeah, scan those or take good shots.
So that's Kali Prime. He's just like a big, monstrous gorilla type version of Kali, and that's the shield, like I said, and that's on his forearm. So, and then he gets his angry face, and a big old sword. But this is the turnaround shot for the rhino.
That's so Robin Hood, man.
And presumably using the same buck as the hippo.
Yeah. There you go.
Because that only makes sense.
There you go, Scott. Scott wants some hippos too.
Yeah. I've said before, like like all the characters from that Robin Hood animated Disney movie. Give me all those, give me the rhinos, the hippos. That's what I see, and I forgot to mention that when we did our videos and we were talking about properties that we are reminded of. Like Disney's Robin Hood is maybe the closest stylistically to this. Different species being different sizes, kind of cartoony, but realistically cartoony.
Have you ever talked to Jason about that? I wonder if that's a touch point for him too. I know that's a big one for you.
Putting off having sort of a conversation about like the lore and the sort of creative thing for when we can get him on to have a conversation with him. But as you guys saw from his internet connection, even when he said he had a good internet connection, it's never good.
Good is relative for him.
So who knows? Maybe it'll be written at some point, and we'll just have to narrate it or something.
I don't know if you could hear me, but right when you showed that rhino, that's exactly what I said. I was like, that is straight up Disney's Robin Hood. Like,
yeah,
even the gesture of the body and the what do you call
the
this?
proportions
The
and stuff.
Proportions and the posture. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's totally those guys. And Star was saying, if we get hippos, we have to have Crocs and Gators. And again, in the comics, you see a beautifully clear shot, and it's in episode 2 of AWOK Talk. It was great. Spiro was able to work with us and gave us versions of the comics without the word bubbles, so we can really just sort of visually see the art.
Yeah.
So if you want to take a look at those, that's all there. And that I didn't check its teeth. I forgot if it was a croc or a gator.
I was just going to say the same thing. I didn't look close enough at the head shape or the teeth, but there is definitely a alligator or crocodile. It's one or the other, but I mean, I don't know.
He's Louisiana, maybe gator.
Yeah. Star says, I need fish characters. Maybe the freshwater breathers don't get along very well with the salties. I would love that too. I would love that too. Alice said that hippo is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nolan getting the whole jungle. Absolutely. And that's why I keep saying to people, like, if you don't like the animals that you're seeing now, just wait.
Yeah.
Because there's so many coming.
You know where you are.
Yeah. Star, if we get hippos, we have to have Crocs and Gators. Stay tuned. I suspect now that we have that reptilian buck, that we could very, very quickly see that one converted.
You see
Mr. Wonderful. I think that was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and the bunny makes me think of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Scott says internet standards are different on the Bayou. I don't think he's actually on the Bayou, but he's not far off.
The one from Quip. I often feel like
I'll hold on to that.
Okay, because often I feel like he and I see him posting elsewhere.
You guys are on the same wavelength. Yeah,
we share a brain.
Allison Troy, I think keep thinking gazelle or ostrich characters would be cool. They'd give some interesting variation. Allison, you bring up an ostrich. An ostrich was brought up in conversation between me and somebody who may have some say in what gets done. It wasn't Jason, but it was somebody who's very sort of closely associated with Spiro Toys. And his take on what an ostrich would be in this world was kind of fascinating. So I don't want to get too far into it because I don't know if this would work or not. And he wasn't sure if it would work or not. But needless to say, I think every species is on the table. Like it's kind of like they haven't ruled that. There isn't like an animal that we're like, oh no, we can't do that. There's no way we could do that. Because like I said, some of the stuff that they want to do, I'm scratching my head like, how would that look? But we'll see.
And to go back to the lore, they left their planet that was essentially dying, or we assume they had a hand in destroying their planet. And on their arcs, the giant spaceships, they took with them, quote, all of the building blocks of life.
Mm-hmm.
So if we presume those are humans from our Earth, they brought with them the blueprints for all animals. And that's what the AI used to transform them. So they could be anything.
I mean, not confirmed by Jason because we haven't been able to get him on, but that's our assumption is that the DNA was brought sort of, on the ark. I mean, it's called an ark, so it sort of...
It's an ark, and she uses the word building blocks of life, which is like...
Mythic Dolphin says dolphins? Possibly, right?
I actually think we're going to find out that the AI is actually not AI. It's either our dolphin or octopus overlord.
Yes.
Manipulated the whole situation.
Let's move. So the rhino, I mean, I agree. I think it's kind of an obvious choice, right? A rhino is just a big, strong character. You'll get a...
And I intentionally chose a juvenile because I chose that juvenile just sort of like the contrast. It's kind of weird looking, right? But I'm trying to imagine what that might look like in sort of a anthropomorphic thing. So
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
cool.
And I swapped some of your pictures just to get, you know, better sort of proportioned pictures in some cases, but this one I kept because he's so cute.
Yeah.
I picked a tortoise.
That's a great one.
I think a tortoise could have like a really cool role in the world, you know,
Yep.
like
Ninjas.
and you know, Star said any turtle slowly coming in. I think again, if we look at, you know, IPs that informed us as you know, children of the 80s, as Jason and I are, and Brick, you're the 60s or whatever, but
plus 16.
I could totally see this. I could totally see a tortoise because I think it would lend itself well to the look. Again, you've got that reptile buck now. I could see it being done in the same way that like Armies of Ashmore did armored dinosaurs, where the armor is like armor. So not necessarily that this guy has a shell, but maybe he has a new shield that's like bigger and thicker and heavier. I don't know which buck it would be. I don't know what size this would be, but I would think he would be, you know, maybe if the reptiles start getting bigger and smaller bucks, you know, we could see a sort of a thicker, hardier tortoise type character. My only concern with this one is that, you know, because it is a shelled animal, it's not as easy as just swapping the head if you want to go kind of realistic to the animal. But that being said, I think, you know, they're taking enough liberties in terms of the design of the species that you could probably kind of say, you know, it's a turtle, but not a turtle. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's, he wears a shell on the outside kind of thing. I think people would be okay with that, but who knows?
I could see it actually working as sort of like an actual armor piece, right? Where there's
well,
a
I could
front
see,
piece
yeah,
and then the back.
as like a secondary piece. Whereas like you take that lizard body and you kind of put the shield or put the shell as like a piece that fits on. Yeah.
Yep.
Keeping in the sort of armored warriors, we have a pangolin, the cooler, rarer form of an armadillo, basically.
Yeah.
How would you like to see this one done?
So I'm thinking it's something like a like I guess the Laranja sort of size buck with a bigger top. But I would love to see shorter legs, almost like a dwarf-like stature.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dwarven, kind of like real burly. That and one of the other little creatures I got, I think could share a buck. So very similar. But I obviously want to see the armor and almost rounded, right? That's when you're talking about the tortoise. I just think it'd make for a completely unique silhouette in the line.
Yeah.
So, and I love that sort of triangular head too. If they could find a way to make it, see how graceful that is, going from the nose around the back, that curve. I don't know.
Well, just
cool
like
stuff.
an armadillo, these guys will curl up into a ball too, and then like all the plates will kind of like it's a tight little ball. I mean, I would almost love to see it designed in a way, articulation wise, where it could do that. Now I know that's like
Rock Lords. Yeah,
exactly. Like, but if you could do that, like that would just be so cool. I mean, that might be way down the line, years and years in the future. But I mean, and again, guys, if I miss your comment, I apologize. Repeating it doesn't always help. But you can always try.
I gotta say though, some of the stuff that's coming in terms of the story and I'm assuming folks who maybe aren't familiar, like with Star's bringing some stuff up.
Yeah,
all I gotta say is, Star, like you're right there. Like you are. I think you'll love what you're reading, because some of the things that you're mentioning, I think you're gonna be very satisfied by what's in issues 1 through 4, and then Ray's got some stuff that like I'm right there with you in terms of what could happen, what it would mean for the storyline. So which excites me, because that's I think where we need to get to if people are going to really glom onto this line.
I think it's so this is one of those funny lines where like we've talked about this before, and I've sort of talked about this ad nauseum to people, but like where He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was a toy line that used a comic book to kind of shoehorn more characters in.
Mm-hmm.
Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is a toy line made by a comic book writer.
Mm-hmm.
And the comic books are everything. Like if you think these figures look cool, I'm not kidding. Just get one of the comic books and you're going to be like, holy, this world is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
You know, when we're talking about these animals, there's people probably thinking this is like pie in the sky stuff. I don't think it is. I mean, we've seen half these animals in the comic book or something similar. I like I said, I don't think any species is off the table. There's some lore questions in there that are sort of connected to some like, you know, figures and species that I think are real possibilities. Like Star mentions, and I've missed it now, but Star, any plant-based characters in consideration? I don't see why not. We haven't seen anything like that, but that's not to say that we couldn't, because I genuinely think like the story could go anywhere. People mentioning human characters. We've seen humans already, you know, like the comic book starts off with humans. We saw Kali as a human. So the potential for a human in the story that's sort of not one of the characters that we already know, I think you know, there's a high probability that we'll see something like that. It's just a matter of when. And I think Star said, you know, with interplanetary travel, the aliens sort of come into play. Well, the humans sort of already are, you know, because they're not on their planet anymore. So it certainly doesn't rule out the possibility that there are other civilizations that are capable of interplanetary travel. Having said all those things,
that's so cool.
I do know that at least one of those is very likely going to happen, but I will not say which. Stay tuned and read the comic books. But yeah, moving right along here. From the pangolin, we have the world's nastiest, meanest little creature, the honey badger. Tell me what you love about this species, because you this was on your list, but I agree completely.
I mean, a lot of it is just its role in an ecosystem. I guess if you'd call it a role, it's just a piece of right. It's just
a nasty asshole.
Yeah, and so that alone, in terms of like what that character could be, right, and what it could do for Pale in terms of Pale's journey, trying to figure things out, or even like dealing with Blight, who I assume is going to have an arc. What it would mean to run into this character, you know, I think it would be really cool. Plus, I just think the overall, again, silhouette of what, you know, if I could translate that visually into a humanoid anthropomorphic thing, longer arms, a little bit like, you know, hunched over, short legs, and that fur, I think would be really cool too. I don't know, just I want to see it be vicious and just
You know what I want to see? So as soon as I was sort of like pulling up pictures for this guy, and like when you start Googling honey badger, you start getting the like, you know, it's the nastiest animal that exists. You read their diet and you're like, why does he eat only these? Like, they eat bees, they eat venomous snakes,
right?
They just go after other nasty things. They're just like the nastier of the nasty things.
Yeah, totally.
But I would love to see this character being like kind of a hermit, that you know, everybody says I'll steer clear of that guy. Like he's nasty. He's just a crotchety old curmudgeon. But him being like really wise and like really helpful, begrudgingly helpful. You know what I mean? Like you said, like at some point in one of these characters' journeys, like they would learn something from him.
Yeah.
And we would get an insight into like why he's so grumpy and why he's a honey badger kind of thing. I think that would be a lot of fun.
And all the other animals realize how tasty venomous snakes and bees actually are, but they just never realize because they're too scared to eat it.
Yeah, there was another, now I've forgotten, but there was like another animal that honey badgers eat that I was like, why does it do that?
Oh, so
Keeping
great.
in the vein of kind of just like weird little critters that I think a raccoon would be fun. This is one of my characters. I realized that I picked a bunch that have tails that I would insist that they have.
Yeah.
A raccoon is just so identifiable by its tail, but also by his little bandit mask. I would love to see a raccoon in a smaller buck than we're getting in the pirate guild, and him just be like the pickpocket kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like just the sneaky, quiet little guy. But look at that face. Who would not want that face in their collection? You picked the red panda, and I totally agree. This is just a great character. This would be one of those ones where like it could be a great color addition on the shelf with those sort of vibrant kind of red tones with the black. Like deco wise, this would be just a great looking figure.
And you could get away with the raccoon and the honey badger, all the same buck, different deco, the way they've been able to pull off some of these other like felines and stuff.
Yeah. I'm seeing lots of people in the comments mentioning either animals that we're gonna show or that we've sort of already talked about, stuff like that. This is one that you picked. This is one where I definitely wasn't gonna swap the picture.
I love these, man. I just think this is a star-nosed
mole.
Yeah. And again, this thing is like, if you saw that, most people don't know this exists, and I show them, it's like it's almost like alien-esque, right?
Yeah.
But they use those things to kind of feel around the dirt. They have horrible eyesight, obviously, but so they feel with that thing, and I just wonder what that head would look like. And again, you could get away with using some of the other bucks, just a completely different head.
And hands. I would want like digger hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I could see the honey badger and the mole being the same buck and having the same clawed kind of digger hands. Because a honey badger, I just imagine, would have big, nasty claw fingers. Yeah, Mr. One of those says, nope, don't need that.
That's what I was laughing at. Nope, don't need that. Yeah, you know, I have two little sons, and I think that I have I'm mentally their same age. We often talk about how this creature looks the same from the front and the back.
Gross. That is not a visual I needed, but yeah, I guess so. Even if it's not a star-nosed mole, I could see a mole for just sort of a digger builder type character. You know what I mean? Like he could be a miner, or you know, somebody that lives in a cave. Moles seem to pop up pretty regularly in IPs that feature animals.
Yep. Utama, Jason, don't be cowards. Give me a star nose.
Yeah, go all in. If you're gonna go in on a mole, go all in on a mole.
And go ahead and put wires in those so they're bendy. That'd be great.
Quip says, yes, I was just about to say a mole creature. Get out of my brain.
There you go, Quip.
Mentioned before too.
There you go, Quip.
Then Quip.
Yep. These are exactly what my sons and I talk about, the living dinosaur, the closest thing that we sort of see. We have a zoo here, especially when the kids were young. That was our thing. We take them to the zoo, and we have a cassowary, and I just would stare at that thing when it's not being shy. And especially when it's up next to you in the pen. These things are huge. Like looking at that head, like the head alone is about like this big, without the beak.
These are, I mean, they're basically ostrich sized. Like this is right up there with an ostrich or an emu. Like full sized birds. They don't get bigger than this.
Nastiest claws.
Deco wise, that head with the blue and the reds, like, and you could play it up too, because there's some that have more yellow on their head sometimes too. And the eyes, like I can just imagine the eyes being bigger than the eyes on sort of some of the other species that we've seen.
And the color on the right, like the one at least that we have here in San Francisco, is that saturated? I know the picture on the left is a little bit desaturated, but these things in real life, it's got this weird like shimmer to that neck, and they're killers. Like they have these insane claws, and they can jump up really high. I think Quip's saying Those things are so rad. They grow up to 7 feet tall and can leap about 6 to 7 feet high, and then obviously attack you with those claws. So,
And Nolan's saying they're the ultimate dads in the animal kingdom. I don't know anything about that, but are they a stay-at-home dad? Is that basically what?
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, this would just be, if only for the aesthetics, like if only for the look of that head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this would be great. Macro Brick says, is that like a horn?
That is like a hardened thing on the top of its head.
Yeah.
It's like
when you see these guys
it's the
from
same
the front,
material as the beak, like a cuticle.
Star says a thing like a leech might be interesting. Ugh, yuck. No thanks.
Taking torches.
I mean, I like the idea, but I would, I'd just be, or like I mean, there's some things that they'll probably do. They'll probably get into creatures and species that are like undesirable animals too, that's when it starts getting really interesting. Do you pass on an animal because it's a species that you don't like? You know what I mean? We'll see.
Oh, I had no idea that Nolan. Sorry, Animal Facts. They're the only
There
parent
we go.
involved.
They're the only parent involved. The mom moves off to go lay more eggs. So they hang out while more babies are on the way. Star, I want a bunch of lazy marmot townsfolk. They just sit around and wish you well. I can see that.
I don't know what a marmot is.
A marmot?
I've heard it. I just can't.
Basically.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, they're awesome.
I mean, depending on where you live in the world, you have this creature. Whether it's a marmot or a groundhog or a meerkat or whatever. Like, there's a version of this everywhere in the world.
We haven't seen
they live underground. They pop up. You see them on golf courses. You see them on lawns. You see them on the side of the road. You see them everywhere.
No, I'm just thinking we haven't seen rodents yet, right? In AWOK? I don't believe so.
Not at all.
This is great. I love it.
Good
job on the name, by the way. The ZOONIVERSE.
Yeah.
He was right there.
I don't know how many people would get that reference, but you're the first to mention it.
We haven't talked Zootopia either, but anyways.
No, that's true. And again, animals as sort of stereotypes, right? Like it's right there too.
Predators.
Oh, Star. That's a good point. Rabbits are technically rodents or related to them.
Rodentia.
And Ray says tons of potential. I think they need to make them avian if they fly. Need to give that army advantage. Yeah, I think if they did this, it would be a bird type creature. So it wouldn't be a ground bird. I don't think.
I mean, they're mainly.
Quip said definitely a toyetic bird. The head sculpt could be wild. Yeah, that's. I agree completely. Axolotl. Those things get a lot of love right now. I mean, that's an animal that most people didn't know existed, 2 years ago, and all of a sudden everybody loves them, and now there's like stuffed animals of axolotls of all creatures. Nolan, who is evidently an expert, says the crest is made of a sponge-like material and covered with a thick layer of keratin.
Yep.
Is there anything about these that Nolan doesn't know? I bet not. So I think Nolan would be very happy if we got a cassowary. Anyway, moving on. A fox.
Yeah.
This is my favorite animal. Again, I would love to see a fox with a tail. If we get a fox and it doesn't come with a tail, I may have to modify a figure. Because a fox without a tail to me is weird. Apart from Fantastic Mr. Fox. Or I guess I could imagine it in that way.
Or Zootopia again.
Zootopia again. Yeah, exactly. I just think, it's a cool little animal. It's, they have a lot of history in sort of mythology and in legend. And I think it could be really fun. Again, if the fox was a smaller body,
Yeah.
Again, fleet of foot, but wise and sort of apart in the same way that kind of Kanji is a little bit apart from his other. Kanji is a rabbit, and he kind of lives in this rural area. There's sort of a pastoral vibe to it. It's all farmers. I think we saw rodents there, but it was primarily, rabbits and things. And they were just, farmers and sort of, what would commonly be called sort of, townsfolk or whatever, but he was sort of the exception. I would love to see a fox be sort of the same thing, where he's sort of like, he has his role within his community kind of thing, but the community is small and he's a little bit of an outsider, just like, maybe if we get the honey badger.
Yeah, I want to see, I'm really into the idea of variety and scale. And so oftentimes now we're getting the bigger and the bigger. Give us those smaller characters, right? The Ewoks, yeah, I would love to see those, but like, fully articulated, like treated with the same sort of like care as we do some of the other figures. It's not like we had Ewoks, and the Ewoks are limited in movement, or Sprite from Marvel Legends or whatever.
Mythic Dolphin, Fox with 9-tail shield weapon. Great reference to some of those, those stories, the mythology, especially Asian mythology. The fox often has, multiple tails and stuff.
Kitsune.
Ray Paz with, a kind of a clever thing. If the AI is manipulating genetics, imagine if it starts cross species, like making a griffin, stuff like that. You could put anything together, right? That you might be onto something. We could see that further down the line as
when the AI evolves to start creating.
If it did it once, right? Why can't it add another layer, sort of thing?
Sure.
Ray says the AI needs to start being its own character. It also adds, I need to read the comics. Yes, you do. Bears.
Yeah, I got bears coming, baby. Yes, bears. Bears are great.
We've seen bear action figures. I would like to see a bear in like this body type.
Big, round,
like the big round, like not. We've seen a few bear action figures recently, and my complaint has been they're way too top heavy. That's just not how bears are. Bears are bottom heavy.
Right.
And I think this is one where it's not accurate. I get that, but you could do a panda bear, a grizzly bear, a polar bear, a brown bear. Like once you get that buck, have at it. Just give us one bear a year for 4 years. And then you get into year
like
5,
Mythic Legion's ogres,
bear, spirit bear. You could get into some of the Asiatic bears.
Sun bears with a flat face. Nice.
But that's a no-brainer too, right? You got a big chunky boy. He'd be super strong. Might not be the smartest, might not be the fastest, but he's big and strong, and can get pretty angry pretty quick. This is my last one.
What is this?
My Canadian leaning. I would love to see a moose. There's also precedence in the line. In the 4-inch scaled figures, they did a moose. So I am hopeful that this could happen. I would like to see this like on the Hannibal size buck. I don't want this on like a massive buck, but on the sort of mid size. Or maybe even Thane size buck, because mooses are awesome and they are mean and they are super strong and way bigger than people realize. As soon as you see one in person, you realize that they are not to be messed with.
Yeah, they feel like they're from a different era. That grass is tall, man, because they got long legs.
That's mountain grass, man. There's nobody up there but that moose, so that grass grows as long as it wants. Quip, good call on the bears. You get to year 6, and we get a koala bear. I love bots.
I thought kangaroo too. That was going to be on my list, but you were like, give me 3. So I gave you 6, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, and I think between us, we had a dozen or whatever. So. All right, that's the list as far as like what we've pulled. Is there anything else that we haven't mentioned that you guys still? I saw buffalo in there. I think a buffalo would be great, and I think if you did a moose, you could probably use the same buck to do the buffalo.
There are water buffaloes
Water buffaloes, yeah,
in the
in the
comic.
book, yeah.
Yep, but not like
Star says I can't stop thinking about the tech wolf. Yeah. Star, issue 2 of the comic book. You'd only have to be $4 invested into the comic book to see that guy in action. He's in issue 3 as well, though. So if you want issue 2 and issue 3 is where you're going to see the Void. As I said, in the graphic novel, he was called Belarus, and then it sort of evolved. No word yet on whether
that might be confusing. But when you say the graphic novel, so there was an earlier version of this story and these comics that Jason did as a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And the characters look very different. And then they eventually came out with a 4-inch line. Yeah. And so the characters look very different. And some of them were translated into this sort of new incarnation that we're mainly talking about now, AWOK. But that's a good place to look at for some of the things that Adam's brought up of like things that we could potentially see, because I'm sure they're going back to that the way that Lucasfilm goes back to their concepts. Yeah.
So we got very different aesthetics between the 4-inch line has an aesthetic very similar to the original graphic novel. And then we got an update in the lore as well as an update in the character design with the 6-inch figures. Both really, really good. The graphic novel is like self-contained. It's available on the website. I would say read it because it does give you some insight into sort of where, the story came from and sort of what characters we might see, like you mentioned, Brick. But it is a little bit different. Also another great way to support, Jason financially. I mean, that comic book, the graphic novel has been out for a while. So it's just, a little bit more money that he can sort of put back towards the future figures in the comics.
It's like looking at George Lucas's, whatever.
THX 1138.
No, even just like Star Wars, from the Journal of the Wills.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Luke Starkiller stuff, and then going into Star Wars proper.
Quip said if I had to pick just 3, Cassowary, Mole, Orca. Orca could be cool. You want to do it really big. What buck would you use though, and what would you or do you do a new one? And what you could do a shark with that?
And I mean,
buck?
do they
do the dolphin with that
live
buck?
in water too? Like that's when I've always sort of struggled with some of those. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
Ray has a question, and that
yeah, when will you guys do AWOK Talk for issue 2? We have already started. So AWOK Talk episode 2. We get into issue 2. We'll probably finish that with the next episode. When issue 4 is released, well, issue 4 has been released and it's really good. But we're also conscious of the fact that we can make these videos faster than Jason can make the comics. So we're trying to not rush it.
Yeah, we don't also kind of like want to spoil them. We want people to check them out, but there's also sort of A story, B story kind of thing. What's going on with Pale? What's going on with Kali? So we try and break up the videos that way. Again, like Adam said, if we were just to do straight 4, we'd kind of be done probably in the next 2 episodes. But it's also just trying to spread it out because again, as I kind of point out in the beginning, I think people are on board with the quality of the toys. I think there are many people who need to be drawn into maybe a story and a world. And so as much as we can sort of take our time to like tease that and then get those little hooks, like a lot of you today, folks are like, wait, there's a cybernetic wolf. And, and it's like, okay, cool. Let me go the comics. Like it's really teasing out those things that might be fleeting, but like, let's really look at this thing and hopefully get people into it.
There is, if you watched the last video, I'll clarify, one thing that I said. So we were talking about other IPs that we thought of when we were reading that the comic book, and I said Rambo, and you kind of were puzzled. there's a scene where Hannibal is like dropping out of a helicopter with a machine gun, and I just thought of Rambo in that one frame, and it for all intents and purposes just looks like a machine gun. So it that kind of caught me off guard a little bit because we'd seen energy weapons a little bit, but then we see one of the cats, just
and that shot of him
gun.
jumping out is in episode 2.
Yes.
But where I thought you were going, it took me a little bit. I was thinking more of the sort of like what's going on in Rambo's head and what's going on in Pale's head, sort of moving through.
And it's that too. Yeah, it was that too. Like Pale is sort of the struggling warrior who kind of lives in a peaceful time, but he has like there's element. The personal struggle is a little bit there too. Nolan said cassowary, then toad and platypus. Platypus would be a cool one too because it's just such a unique animal. A toad would be fun too, and I think that reptile buck we could. That's the thing. Like we've been thinking about cats and monkeys this whole time, but what we're kind of talking about is like there's nothing off the table, and like we might not even be thinking as sort of broadly as Jason is in terms of what he wants to use. But I think a toad would look pretty cool, and just more lizards, right?
Lizards, amphibians, like good stuff.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, like, what if? No, I don't want to think that one out loud because that was too good. That was too good.
Okay.
So I've been thinking about translucent figures, right? Everybody knows this. If you've ever watched my show and you've ever heard me talk about what I want in an action figure line, give me a
jellyfish
figure. No, chameleon.
Yeah, that someone brought that up.
A translucent chameleon.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Star. Are there regular animals in this world as well? By regular animals, do you mean ones that don't talk? And if you do, then the answer is yes, but not in the way that I think you're thinking.
Check out episode 2, AWOK Talk. There's a little section on that one. Yeah, and there's some good stuff that came up, but there's lots of shots in there. I tried to like we talk about some of them, and then part of what took me a while was like, man, we skipped some of these things, so I just kind of found ways to put them on screen. So definitely one to watch, I would say, and while also listening.
Yeah. That's such a visual episode, and it's so good. I can't say that enough. I literally did watch it twice this morning.
Well worth a lost sleep.
Quip says orcas breathe air. They just need something to keep them wet. So there you go. Star says quality is huge with me. I've turned down some great looking lines just because the quality of the material and construction wasn't there. I can assure you, Star, if you haven't had these in hand yet, they are awesome. They are really, really good figures in hand. And they'll only get better. Like that's the crazy part. You see a lot of like wave 1 figures regardless of the line, and there's like little kinks that they need to kind of iron out. There isn't really anything with these. They feel great in hand. They feel really stable. They feel, a lot of people say they feel more substantial than they expected them to for sort of, a first wave, like an initial offering.
Note to us, this is something I've been wanting to kind of bring up, but like being able to talk about the materials that are used in this line, because it definitely, including the armor, the accessories, it's different stuff than what I was used to, and it was kind of an eye opener. So I'd love to. I don't know how you talk about that. I guess you show it, but it's definitely it's stuff that folks should check out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where like you hear people say all these things that I've just sort of repeated because they're true. And then you get it in hand and you go, oh, now I can kind of experience, and those words make more sense.
Yep.
But they're a ton of fun, and in hand they're really solid. Moonshine analysis. I was just going to say, introduces Grimes. He's probably one of the coolest and best designs he came up with. I've never seen that design anywhere else. Do you know Grimes? Are you familiar with that name?
Is that from no?
Grimes is in the graphic novel.
The graphic novel. Okay.
He was also in the 4-inch scaled line. He was like one of the deluxe figures.
Did he have like a cyborg arm?
I can't remember. I just remember that he's a sheepdog.
Yeah,
his hair
white,
comes like
hairy.
down over his eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. I still keep waiting for more characters from the graphic novel to kind of appear in the book, because some of them just have like really great designs, or like roles in the graphic novel that I think would work and kind of translate well. Carol has joined us. What's going on,
Hey,
Carol?
Well, I know we're jumping around, but again, on the materials, hold a Masterverse sword, an Animal Warriors of the Kingdom sword, and a Mythic Legion sword. 3 very different feels, and I find that kind of stuff fascinating. I don't know how to communicate that other than just to tell people to do it and check it out.
Star, octopus, or squid. I mean,
yeah.
Again, I would be fascinated with how they would translate that. So I would love to see that. I'd be very curious to see that, because once you start getting into animals that are not bipod or quadruped, you get into tentacles and jellyfish, and you're kind of like, okay, well, how do you translate that into an action figure? Can you? And Moonshine Mill says, yeah, 4-inch line sheepdog. Yeah, absolutely. So I can't, but like I said, I can't remember if he had a robotic arm.
The robotic arm was like this other creature, but it was it was brown in color. But they had similar body shape.
Yeah. It would be like
the deluxe figures, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we got for animals. We're caught up on the chat there. Unless anybody has sort of another comment or a question, we will maybe start wrapping things up here. David Williams, remember the Battle Beasts? Bat? I'd love to see something like that. Okay.
I hear that a lot when I talk about sort of AWOK. Folks are like, Battle Beasts is one that gets brought up a lot. Thundercats next to Thundercats, and I don't explore the Battle Beast conversation, but I totally see that. A lot of those creatures, those are like great templates for what they could do.
And if Jason ever wanted to do like a tribute figure kind of line, or if he did con exclusive figures, Battle Beasts would be a perfect one, because you just pick a color palette in the same way that we got Tanger as a Beastman tribute. You could do Battle Beast tribute figures for every species, right? They line up so well. Star says a snail hangs out with Sloth and the Starfish. Mythic Dolphin, Ursula as a mutant octopus. Yeah, I mean, you could go that route, right? Human on top, kind of octopus on the bottom. Nolan goes a different direction. He says Zoidberg style, so sort of but Zoidberg has sort of like a octopusy kind of
Futurama.
Yeah. But he has claws. So
yeah,
we could see something with claws for hands too. Some sort of crab character. Ray Paz says, yeah, I'd love to see cephalopods. Yeah.
What's fascinating when you look at the comics too, the mechs are very animalistic too.
Yes.
Which is fascinating, like the dragonfly and these sort of like crab looking creatures. So I don't know. I feel like, why would they have these mechs, or where are they pulling these things from?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Who's designing them? What are they pulling influence from? Mechs would be mechs could be another conversation we can have.
In terms of
toys. We will.
In terms of toys, man. Yeah. I mean, you're worried about that dragonfly. Whew. Imagine next.
Oh, I would. I mean,
7-inch figures.
I would take all of them. I would take.
I would too.
I wouldn't know where I would put them. Is the problem? This.
Our kids go to college eventually.
This room is only so big.
They move out eventually.
That's true. I got a big enough yard. I could build a shed to put all this stuff in, but we have lots of sheds. I just don't.
I was going to say that would fill up pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure.
I'd build a big shed. I proactively know that I would fill it up quick. So
good stuff.
Ray Paz, I'm all in on the dragonfly.
Yeah, dragonflies,
Um,
spiders. We haven't talked.
Ray
Like, there's
Paz, are
a
you
ton
talking
of
about the
these.
dragonfly in the comic book, or are you talking about the
Oh,
GI Joe
that's right,
HasLab
GI Joe.
dragonfly, which happens to, great timing that happens to be happening right now. Man, I'm all in on that thing too. So, oh, you could have a dragonfly next to a dragonfly. That's my new collection dream, to have a GI Joe HasLab dragonfly next to an Animal Warriors of the Kingdom dragonfly.
Are you familiar with the Motu dragonfly type thing? What was that called? Oh my god! I know you're all in the chat like yelling it out right now.
I'm not. I know of this. I know the Sectars did like those dragonfly hand puppet things, but
that's why I don't remember it, because it's the
Sectars.
silliest name. It's called a fright fighter. Weak. But yeah, the fright fighter. It's the shape of a dragonfly.
Now I gotta look it up, because
yeah, it's cool. Cool colors too, purple and blue. It's kind of like a helicopter, but not. Yeah,
looking
really,
this up might crash my. Oh, okay. So it's kind of, yeah. So it's kind of like in between. It's kind of in between the GI Joe one and the AWOK one, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of animalistic in its look. Clearly inspired by the insects, but still a helicopter, I guess. Alice and Troy jumped in there, yeah. So,
hey, look at these guys who came in.
Star, I will answer this one because it's easy for me to answer. I don't know. I keep wondering how they maintain their technology and where do they get spare parts and advance their tech. I don't know. We haven't quite been sort of told that. Although, when you're in the comic book, you realize that there is a lot of tech that exists in the world. So it's not as though they're inventing these things or have short supply of it. It seems as though it's readily available to them.
And they came crash landing in giant advanced starships. So
yeah.
Sure, they can do a pick and pull.
Jerry is back. Jason is back. I can only assume that maybe they're done their meal now or something, so they're just messaging while they're watching.
Finish that margarita.
I can only assume too that they're still sharing one chair and probably both looking at their own screens, right next to each other. Star says AWOK meets BattleTech. I'm all over that. Well, it's AWOK meets AWOK. It's already in there. But again, the comic books, guys. If you're a lot of these questions, sort of a lot of this world that we're sort of talking about, it's right there, and it is phenomenal, and it's well worth your time and well worth the very, very few dollars that are required to get in there. Ray says the comic has incredible potential from the review the boys did. The art looks sick. I have to watch episode 2 and read the books. I bought them. They're great, and that's I say this as somebody that reads a lot of comics. It's a comic book that I look forward to more than almost any other comic book that I read. It is not a comic book that exists because of a toy line. It is a well constructed. The art is great. The writing is fantastic. The world building again is second to none. So it's worth reading even if you're not collecting the action figures. Would be my opinion on that. Quip, Wild Bill, and Ripcord are both redhead GI Joes. Well, Quip, I thought of you when I was picking on my red-headed animals today. There was one more animal that I didn't include because it is 100% a personal request that I want an orange tabby cat made in the likeness of my recently departed orange tabby cat, who is an absolute scrapper, which is why he has one eye. And chunks taken out of his ear. An orange tabby cat would be right up there on my list. The moose was like my Canadian pick. That would be my sort of personal, if I ever got the chance and I know what his name would be. I know the colors of his armor. I know everything. But we'll see. We'll see. What else we got? What are we...
It's funny. I had a cat.
We're laying on the same bed in the hotel.
It's actually progressed past that, as if
I see that this we're doing a hot tub together. Jason said, "Sorry for the loss. I have an orange tabby myself." I know you do, so we're gonna make that happen. We're gonna get an orange tabby in the line. I will say this, and Ray sort of said the same thing. Sorry for your loss. We live on an orchard farm, and he's been an outside cat for a long time. It was best case scenario, and by that I mean he was really healthy for a long time. He was about 15 years old, give or take. This winter and sort of into the spring, he started getting a little slower. He wasn't eating as much. He was getting a little bit ratty and matted. But he was just always there in the morning for breakfast, and we'd see him in the evening. And then we just stopped seeing him. And I like to imagine that he's just gone off on an adventure somewhere. So I'm very, very thankful that I didn't actually have to put him down or anything like that. He just got to live his best life until he decided to go live his best life somewhere else. So don't feel bad. I mean, he had a long, very, very good life, which may still be going on for all I know.
Do you know what where the eye and the ear thing? I had a cat in I think it was like 12. My grandmother's cat at their house. Possums is what they kept scrapping with. Lost a chunk of their ear, almost all of their ear, and also blinded in one eye. Is that what it was? Do you know, or do you know?
I have no idea.
Just showed up like that one day.
Oh, he was a stone cold killer though. He'd bring home like birds and moles and mice and rats and just whatever he could find. But we'd hear him scrapping with other cats. When new cats move into the neighborhood and are kind of feeling things out, they come into our yard once, and that was it. One time he came home and he had another cat's nail embedded in his head. We had to like pull it out. He just went about his day with a nail right in his head. So it could have been anything. I don't know what it was.
Rough and tumble. Woo.
But he like I said, he's a little scrapper, and he was a tough little cat.
Yep. Well, we definitely got to get Jason, if you're still there. Jeremy, would love to have you back soonish, and I'm really, really curious to hear the reception at a mainly GI Joe Center convention. Really curious to hear how that went. Really curious to hear people's sort of feedback and what people's response were.
Yeah.
Soon,
we'll work
fellas.
it out soon. Yeah, we'll work it out soon. We're thinking of ways to make it happen. Maybe audio is the way to do it. Maybe we record an audio and then we can add visuals, in post kind of thing. Maybe it won't be live, right? So that's the other thing. We'll have it. Probably it won't be live because it's internet, because his Wi-Fi sucks.
Let's have him AI generated, actually, and then Sorry. Now I saw these in the corner of my eye, and I was
the gold weapon pack,
to feel them, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah. It's a trip.
Yeah, great quality. They are absolutely great quality. So if you haven't already, go out and buy the figures. If you haven't already, go and grab the comics. Like we said, $2 in sort of PDF format on spirotoys.com. Wave 1 is available now. Wave 2 is about to land and be available for shipping and for ordering. Wave 3 is up for pre-order. The board game is up for pre-order. We haven't even talked about that today, but we did a ton of that in the last episode. If you want to know more about that, check that episode out. As I said, let me check. Should be available on eCollectibles.ca as of today, but I didn't check in the last few hours. So let me see if they're up. It'll be right on the front page. And no, it's still not up, but they should be up sooner rather than later.
I'm curious if One Hella Dope Toys would be carrying those.
Well, they
As
will
he
be.
enters the room. Yeah.
They will be. I just don't know when they will post them. I suppose that's a better question for somebody like Ted Darkclaw.
Yep, I just say that because he walked right in. But if you wanted to get Wave 1, they are all there right now, and they will ship out the next business day.
Yeah. Ray Paz says, buy the physical comic copies. Keep it old school. Just my opinion. I will say this. I get all the digitals because I get the PDF right away, and I can read it right away. I also have all the physical copies. The print quality is fantastic. They're a really, really good comic book in terms of the print quality too. The paper stock that they use is like really heavy stock, and it looks beautiful in the physical form for sure. Star with a last minute entry. Pit bulls who fight in an illegal underground fights in a town as others wager bets. That'd be cool.
Yep. Throw in some fighting cocks and we're good to go.
We're gonna get dogs, right? We're gonna get the wolves. So dogs. We mentioned Grimes, so makes sense. Anyways, it's been a pleasure, Brick. One more episode down. We are going to record the next AWOK talk soon.
So
stay tuned for
this
that. We will be on next week. You and I are doing the Hella Dope Toys show next Sunday night. I'm here every Sunday and some other days. If you enjoyed the show, like and subscribe. Check out Brick's channel as well. Like I said, we are doing these live chats here. We are doing the pre-recorded stuff over on Brick's channel because he is much more adventurous and is taking on all the workload of doing the edits. Where I just show up live and I'm a talking head and then I log off and go about my day. But man, I'm not even kidding when I say this. The edit on the second episode is so good.
Thank you.
The first one's great too, but the second one is like on another level. So go check that out if you haven't. Strongly recommend you reading the first 2 comic books at least if you're going to watch those. Not a prerequisite, not required, but if you haven't before, you probably will after. Because they're you know what? I know that I'm in them, but I think we're putting out good videos. I mean, those are good videos. If you watch those and you're like, nah, I still don't want to read the comic book. I don't know how you could sort of get there, but whatever. Go buy the comics, go buy the figures, check out our channels. Please like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. We will talk to you guys all again very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.